This video is brought to you by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino.
What's going on, Washington Commanders Nation? It's your boy Rio Robinson back with the latest and greatest on the Rambling with Rio YouTube channel, where we ramble about the Washington Commanders. The third day of Washington Commanders training camp is in the books. I had to go get my guy, my brother, my mentor, the host of the After Practice podcast for the sportsjourney.com, NFL insider, and Washington Commanders beat reporter, the great Lake Lewis. How we doing right now, Lake?
What's going on, my friend, man? Good to see you.
Hell yeah, man. It's been a long off season, probably one of the more, if not most interesting off seasons we've seen around this team. What has the vibes and the atmosphere been like all off season?
Man, it's been great. I mean, you see young guys working, wanting to prove people wrong, trying to, change the narrative as far as the organization. And, it's just been nothing but positive. And it's for the first time in my career covering this team where it's just all football. There's no dark clouds hanging over us. There's no hell. It seldom rains. Honestly,
Right.
the last couple of days has been cloudy, but we've been out there. So I'm just excited, man. Everybody's excited, and I think this team is going to catch some people by surprise this year as far as them changing the narrative.
I know it's different from a fan's perspective, has to be different from a player's perspective, but you can speak to it as a media member. Like, how has it felt different for y'all since new management has taken over?
Well, I mean, some of us, not all of us, some of us don't like to create controversy anyway. You know what I'm saying? There's still some of my colleagues that still do that, but for the most part, I think most of us are just like the fact that we can focus on, my thing is building relationships with the guys, with the coaches, and I have quite a few of those. So this is a new group, so now there's new faces, obviously new coaches, new ownership. So it's just forging those relationships and building those and seeing where everyone is. But it just seems like it's one universal message, and it's family. That's everybody keeps saying that. And you see it in the practices, the first couple of days of training camp. You saw it, guys just, when a drill was over, or when, the offense got the better of the defense, like yesterday, Jayden Daniels, had a couple drives of the kid looks phenomenal, but had a touchdown pass at the end. And everyone, even on the sidelines, all the other offensive players who were watching, ran out on the field to congratulate each other, and he was talking to Zach Ertz as he's still congratulating everyone else and still telling Zach to stick around because he wanted to finish whatever Zach wanted to talk to him about. It's just little stuff like that you pick up on that maybe you didn't see, that in the past because of egos and things like that. But yeah, it's a positive vibe for sure, man.
It feels like there's like a good balance from Peters and his staff and Dan Quinn and his staff of like humanity, but also like we mean business. Like they don't even like to throw the word rebuild out there, even though they know we're kind of in one. But it just feels like a completely different organization. For one, the owner is not a storyline, and that by itself is a huge part of this whole puzzle here. How is Josh Harris and his ownership group? How have things felt different on that end?
Well, just to put some things in perspective, Mitch Rails was out yesterday, and it wasn't like announced. You just happened to glance and see him walking off after practice. But I haven't seen Josh out there. I mean, I haven't really been looking for him, but I haven't seen him. Put it like this: in years past, you may not have been looking for Snyder, but you would have found a way to notice he was out there. He would have made sure you knew he was out there. So
would have been felt somehow.
Yeah, you just don't see it. You see, Adam Peters out there sometimes just, talking maybe with Doug or someone. But all the onus and the focus is what's going on the field. And you can't help but notice all the coaches, the spirit, the energy. They're yelling, but they're not yelling at people. They're making sure they're being heard in their coaching and their technique. And everybody's respond to it, man. I just think what I'm seeing, Rio, is that these guys have been bad for so long. And a lot of these guys, the John Allens, Deron Paynes, Terry McLaurin's, they're coming from powerhouse colleges.
Yep.
And they came to this outfit where the locker room, was already fractured. The locker room they were dressing in was terrible. I mean,
Right.
all these things they're coming from, they've never seen anything like that. And now I think they do feel like they're finally being coached by real guys, guys that, you know, the Daryl Tapps, the Bobby Ingrams, the Anthony Lynn's,
Whew.
all these
That's
guys
bad.
played in the league, you know, and now they feel like they're getting tutelage from guys that did it and did it at a really nice level and excelled, and they're buying in. Everybody's all on board.
You love to hear that too, because the staff they're building is so impressive. Like, I wasn't familiar with Dan Quinn's game. The gravity that he has within the league, the respect as a human and as a coach. Washington's like a destination. People want to come over and join Adam Peters' staff. People want to join Dan Quinn's staff. That's not something we've had here in quite some time. But just to start going into practice and stuff, I've noticed this offseason since mini camp, now going into training camp. It's a very business approach. It doesn't feel like we're getting too much coming out from you guys with the media from practice. Is that by design? Are they not letting too much information out? It seems like y'all are only allowed to put out but so much that y'all are seeing right now.
Well, I mean, just to put some things in perspective, you know, you when practices have started, you know, if this is for training camp, not OTAs, but for training camp, there's been a huge focus on special teams.
Okay.
You can't record special teams, and it almost sets the tone for you're here to watch this and not so much film. So you notice everything that I can film and that I do film or Serge, you know, films. It's drills, you know. But once they blow that horn and it's time to rock and roll, so to speak, you can tweet out something that you see, but there is no recording of it. So the videos that you see circulating of in game or in like competition practice type stuff, competitive stuff, 7-on-7s, 11-on-11, that's the team putting that out there.
Okay.
So that tells you what you need to know right there.
I love it. I love it. Yep. There was pretty much almost no fan attendance at the mini camps and OTAs this year, which is different from usual. There's only 5 days where camp is open to fans and the public this year. It just seems like a very business savvy. We got to get these guys right. Fans, we understand it, but it doesn't feel like we're getting too much from the media. But let's get into it. You know what everybody wants to talk about. Jayden Daniels, the guy we want to be our franchise quarterback, second overall pick. He looks different. Tell me everything you've seen up from the time we drafted him to right now, 3 days into training camp. What is your first impression of JD5?
Listen, man, it's not the fans want him to be the franchise quarterback. He is the franchise quarterback. I mean, this guy is he's phenomenal. I mean, and you know me, I try not to blow smoke, man.
I know.
But I call it like I see it. And I've never seen a quarterback talent like this in Washington. And this is my 15th year. Never. Kirk Cousins could throw the ball, do some things. RG3, you know, was running around doing some things. But never collectively have I seen this kind of talent. This guy is just as good a pocket passer as Kirk and more athletic than Robert. I mean, that's just what more can you say? And the thing that I love about him, I actually said this yesterday. B. Mitch and me were talking. Jayden does so many good things in practice, and never once have we seen his eyes gravitate to us on the sidelines. I mean, not one time.
Oh man, that's music to my ear. He does not want the attention. He doesn't care.
So you already know by saying that you pick it up. I hope fans understand what I'm saying by that. Like Robert was my guy and some of the other guys, but they knew what was going on with us. And there was always that narrative to, you know, be out there, be seen. This guy's head down, man. Head down, get better every day. He looks good. He just doesn't make mistakes. A couple balls that he threw yesterday that were errant, some overthrows. I'm not so sure, and I actually said that in my stand-up. I'm not so sure if Terry doesn't go get that or Jahan doesn't go get that. Those overthrows weren't to those guys, you know. So there was a little bit of not, you know, miscommunication with some of those receivers, but they weren't balls that were going to be picked off. That's the point I'm saying. His 50-50 balls that he gives receivers a chance to make plays it's legit. But for the most part, He gets rid of the ball within 2-3 seconds. I don't even think it's gotten in 3 seconds. It's height, survey, bam, it's there. And he knows where he wants to go. He doesn't know where he wants to go before he gets to the line, but he knows where he wants to go after his eyes have scanned the field over 2 seconds. And it's just it's refreshing to see. It's refreshing to see that Washington finally has it. And you see all these other teams around the league and they have it, and then some of them stumble upon it, meaning that quarterback, and you're thinking, why can't Washington have that kind of dude? Well, they got a dog, man. They got a dude that I really think is taking the league by storm this year.
We've been desperately starving for that, man. Like, and I like the guy. He just seems cool, calm, collective. He's confident, but he has this cool je ne sais quoi about him where he's there, but he's not begging for your attention. Like, we've had a lot of guys come through here at the quarterback position that felt like they were running for office. Like, I know exactly what you meant when you said he's not looking over to the sideline.
No, I mean, and you know, I picked up on this in Detroit, you know, at the draft. You know, I had the privilege of interviewing him. I think I was like the second interview he ever had, you know, and you know, shout out to Charlie and Mule and the team. They set it up, you know, with me with the league, and it was nice. So I just noticed with him though, Rio, he was just he had his head down while he was talking to me, and he said no sir once, and I was like, no. Like,
we don't gotta do all that.
Trust me, I respected it, but I had to make sure I shook his hand at the end of it too, you know, just because. And I don't shake guys' hands all the time, but if you come like a man and you're humble, but yet, you know, I still could see the swag on him. Man, that was just a nice thing, man. And he said all the right things in that interview. He said he knows the history of the team. He said he's been friends with Doug Williams for a while, you know, and he actually said to me, he wants to be that quarterback, and specifically that African-American quarterback that gives young black kids hope that they can do it. I mean, come on, man. In this city, what more do you want?
Oh yeah. And I hear him talk about his relationship with CJ Stroud, but also you can see the competitive nature in the dog in him when he's like, yeah, CJ's my boy, but I want to outdo his rookie
But he want to
year.
be better than him, you know.
Yep, I want to be better. I want to outdo his rookie year. They come from the same place.
Yeah, Bryce Young too. All of those guys are Cali guys.
San Bernardino. Yeah.
And just to see, you know, that he does have that kind of Cali vibe, that kind of like, you know, he kind of reminds me a little of Deshaun. That was my guy. And Deshaun, you know, has that Cali vibe, you know, laid back. But once they strapped the helmet on, it was dog city out there, you know. And I think that's what you see with Jayden. Jayden knows that he's special, but he wants to win that locker room. Well, he's already done it, but he wanted, that was the first thing he wanted to do. He even told us after one of the practices, I don't want to be called a franchise quarterback.
Yep, he said that.
He said, I'm not a franchise guy. I'm a
rookie.
And one like looked, and some people smirk like, okay, yeah, he's saying that. No, he means that. Like,
he means that shit.
He means that. He wants to win over everyone by his play on the field. And listen, Dan and them already basically said it on, you know, 2 days ago that there's a process and we all know it, but there's no need to announce him as the starter today. But Rio, I'll put my professional livelihood. Barring injury, he's the starter right now. Everyone that he's the best quarterback on the field by a country mile.
The country mile. We love to hear that, because you know how many years we done come here and we done anointed starters, and we're looking at the backup and the backup's backup. Like, it don't even look that different between the guys, but
it looks different now.
And they always say the locker room knows. You can listen to the guys when they talk about him. You know, coach speak, players speak, and what the truth is. And they all sound like they're ready to see this guy get to it. He threw his first interception in practice today. How did he bounce back from it, and how was his day overall today?
I mean, you know, listen, those were going to come, you know.
Of course.
But the thing is, his interception wasn't just an awful read, awful throw. I mean, you know, things happen. But like I said before, he does, for every 10 thing he does, it's hard pressed to find one or two things that he hasn't done that's a problem. I haven't seen anything. I just haven't. And today is good to get that out your system, because it shows you're human. You know, can't be perfect all the time, but the way he bounced back from it was he made a couple throws after that, and that's who he is. He's a quick processor. He learns things really quick. And this is for the first time in a long time. I think these guys understand that they're not going to go anywhere unless this kid performs well. And I think in the past, some of these guys probably not, say it publicly. I'll say it for them. They told me they knew their quarterbacks weren't it. So some of them had to do more than they needed to do. And sometimes it's predicated on you getting the ball from that guy that wasn't that good. So you forget about them. My God, Jahan, that's my dude. We are always Penn State.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, man. This kid had people thinking after his rookie campaign that he could be just as good as Terry sooner than later.
I was people.
I'm still one saying that. And he's a first-round draft pick, man. He's one of the all-time leaders at Penn State. I mean, he's a great football player, dynamic, twitchy, has a little bit of swag to his game. But that was stripped from him last year. And people are saying, is he a bust? No, he needed a quarterback that could get him the ball in a system that was set up for him to be successful in. Yep. And it just wasn't there for him last year. But I promise you, he's going to have a bounce back year this year.
I'm loving to hear that. I'm loving to hear how Jayden is another guy, an autocorrect guy. You're not going to see him make the same mistakes twice. Everybody wants to hear about the quarterback, but the rest of the rookie class, we have an exciting rookie class. Mikey Sanders still, I heard B. Mitch come out and say today, he's kind of like the leader, one of the leaders of the team already as a rookie. Nick Saban said he was the best defensive player pound for pound in the draft. How's he looked so far?
Yeah, well, Nick Saban said he was the best player pound for pound in the draft. Not defensive, but the whole thing. And they got him. So you look at him and you see what he's doing out there. And, sometimes returning some punts and things like that. Just a really quick dart, just uber fast type dude. And he's got dog on him. Obviously he did it at Michigan. That's all you did, national champions. That. But he's a physical player for his size. And I think the fact that you can have him and a Quan Martin out there together and hybrids and moving them around, and it's just going to be so interesting to see how they utilize guys. Benji St. Juice looks so comfortable in this system. They like big, long, rangy, going back to his days in Seattle, they just have big, long, rangy, grabby corners, and that's Benji, Tariq Castro-Fields, I mentioned him yesterday. He's another big, long, rangy guy that's grabby. He's actually come to the forefront. You're going to see a lot of him, too.
Yeah, he almost picked off Daniels today from what I read, too.
Absolutely. Yep. So these are guys, yesterday he was in on some plays. So, you see all these guys that are out there, and then, you think of the rookies, the Hampton, from Washington. They've got so much talent out there now. It's going to be some surprise cuts. I mean, and I think their practice squad is going to be littered with guys that at some point in their career are going to make some noise in Washington. It's going to be that deep on the practice squad because 53 is going to be so loaded up. I haven't seen this in a long time. We've seen great frontline players, the Deshaun Jacksons, Pierre Garçons, Jordan Reeds, at one point Alfred Morris, but if something happened to those guys, it was curtains. Because
it was done. No depth at all.
There's super depth on this roster, and it's young depth too that's going to keep getting better and better. So by year 2, year 3, I would say some of their depth guys are going to be getting big contracts to go somewhere else because there's that kind of talent out there.
We love to see that. We got a lot of guys on 1 year short deals, short contract, so that they can come in and establish the identity, and then we can renegotiate in the offseason or move on. We got young players in place sitting behind these older guys. For example, we brought in Frankie Louvu and Bobby Wagner that's adding 300 tackles to a defense on the linebacker position. Then this rookie Jordan McGee, they got him starting in base. Jamin Davis is playing a hybrid linebacker edge rusher role. That linebacker room looks drastically different, right?
Yeah, man, I appreciate that too, because I wrote an article today. It just posted it right before we came on. And it literally, the title of the article is Washington's linebacker room could become their best unit. And in the article, I went on to say it has the potential to be one of the best units in the league. That's how overnight, these guys, Peters and Quinn and Joe Witt, they've come in and changed the identity of that linebacker room. Listen, I'm a huge Bobby Wagner fan, always has been. Just smart, intelligent player that's everywhere. Still was up there, league leader in tackles last year, and 12th year. So I mean, say what you want, by him getting older, he's still great. I think he was 54th ranked player in the league, in the league's top 100. So he's still getting it done. But you pair him with a Frankie Louvu, who I think has star power.
Very much.
I think that he's ready to really, truly blossom into a Pro Bowl caliber linebacker in the league, and was damn close in Carolina the last 2 years. So now that he's playing with a Bobby Wagner, his game's going to go to another level by default. And then you paired him with Jordan McGee. You paired him, with Jamin Davis, and don't forget about Pittman. He's another guy that they like.
Yeah.
So there's some talent there. Michael Walker. There's talent there. It's just putting it all together. And I think that this is going to be one of the team's strengths. Just by week one, you're going to see a craze running around linebacker crew that's wreaking havoc.
Boy, have we come a long way from the John Bostic, David Mayo days of the world. It's crazy. Our head coach and our defensive coordinator played damn linebacker in the league, and we
never addressed it.
We neglect the position for the whole tenure they were here. It's a beautiful day that we're able to move on from that. First round pick in 2023, Emmanuel Forbes. They said today he gained 17 pounds. Does he look it, and does his confidence look any better? I know it's 3 days in. There's no pads on yet. What does his morale look like 3 days into camp so far?
He's made plays. He made, even yesterday, made a couple really nice plays. And it's funny because, I was joking with our good friend Donna Hopkins, my auntie, and Lou Holder. And when Emmanuel went in front of us, I said, he's bulked up. And they were like scoffing, nah. And I'm like, yeah, he's still thin. That's just him. But you can see the muscle definition in his thinness. So you can clearly see that he's put some muscle into his frame. Doesn't necessarily look like him. He's just so naturally thin. He's not going to walk by you and you say, oh my God, when you use that term bulk, like he looks huge. I just think he looks more muscular now. And I think that that's just naturally his frame. So yeah, you definitely can see that he was in the gym. You can tell that, he took his weight and everything into consideration, because he needs to get better, obviously, with that, and can't have him on islands with AJ Brown and stuff like that. God. if he couldn't hang with him,
I'm looking at that boy they drafted in New York this year, Malik Neighbors, and I'm like, ooh, last year Forbes lined up against him. That would be barbecue chicken, man.
But you know what? In fairness to all of this, Forbes covered all these guys in college. They were all SEC guys. So he's familiar with Brian Thomas. He's familiar with Malik Neighbors. He's familiar with George Pickens and all these recent guys that came out. He was familiar with Jamar Chase and all those guys. So he was a talent that I truly in my heart feel like, I don't want to say like make him feel this way, but I thought the team reached when they took him where he was. I thought he was an NFL
everybody thought that.
Yeah, he was an NFL caliber player for sure, but not that high. And you had a Christian Gonzalez sitting there, some other guys, the kid from Maryland. They all were sitting there, and they neglected to take him. So it put even more pressure on Forbes. Like, you better produce and show people, because they picked over some guys that were more accolades coming out of college than you did. And they took you instead, but in fairness to him, he had horrible coaching his rookie year, and they totally misused what he could do best. We mentioned AJ Brown. The Philly game was a prime example. He left the kid on an island with no confidence, first of all, and you left him out there repeatedly against an absolute monster at wide receiver. That's poor coaching. That's poor identifying something that wasn't working. You couldn't make any in-game adjustments, and you just left your guys out there to dry. I can assure you they won't be doing that to him this year.
Yeah, that's some Ron Rivera shit if I've ever heard it, man. That's literally the definition of baptism by fire. We know what Dan Quinn and Joe Witt, what their profile of a cornerback is like. Do we think Emmanuel Forbes ends up starting opposite Benjamin St-Juste, or do you think Mike Davis is going to edge him out to start the season?
I'm gonna come out here on record, man, and just say this. You guys may think I'm crazy, but I think Tariq Castro-Fields might be that other corner on the other.
Oh,
I truly believe
that's
that.
substantial.
Yeah, I truly believe that.
Okay.
I mean, he's having a really good offseason and early part of the camp, and he's big and rangy. I mean, he looks just like Benji on the other side. And you know, he's a local kid that a lot of people knew about when he went up to State College. You know, when he went to Penn State, he was really good. Didn't get drafted where people thought. I don't even know if he got drafted. And
No,
people,
he didn't get drafted.
yeah, people were surprised by that. But you know, that's Jahan's boy. I think they're best friends. You know, so it's a lot of little things that are there. But I absolutely can tell you that I know Joe Witt loves that kid, man. So whoever's on the opposite side, you might not even just pencil Benji in yet, even though we do think he's there. But Mikey Sainristil is going to have something to say too. I mean, they're all out there. We naturally see him playing in the slot, but
oh yeah, that's his job. I think he's like the only one. I think he's cool in this spot.
Yeah. I mean, you know, but Quan can come down there and do the same thing at times, but now he's going to be a bag of safety. So they just have so many interchangeable pieces. It's just fun to see how this thing's going to come together. And man, like Witt said, they don't have 11 starters. They have players. They have multiple players. That's good to hear, man.
I love it. I trust Dan Quinn, Joe Witt, Jason Simmons and company to stack up that secondary however they see fit. If there's one thing about this team I'm not worried about in 2024, it's the defense. The defense is going to be something to rely on immediately. Let's move over to the offensive side of the ball. Cliff Kingsbury, usually in the spotlight, was a head coach before. He was low-key as an assistant for USC with Caleb Williams and company last year. He seems like he is all business. He doesn't want to be in front of a camera. He barely wants to be there when they put him up on the podium. He just got his sun hat on and he's just bonding with the quarterback and in the film room. How is Cliff? What have you seen from Cliff through the offseason so far?
Man, modern offensive football. And it just looks fluid, man. You know, like even the drills they do, you know, a couple of us yesterday were saying the same thing. Every day there's been different drills. I mean, obviously the quarterbacks do certain things, but for the most part, every day it's a different drill and they're being coached through it. They're being encouraged through it. I've never one time heard anybody jump on a player or curse at a player ever. I just see more positive reinforcement and guys dapping each other up and chest pumping. I mean, they're getting through it together. And I think with Kingsbury, you know, he understands his role. He understands who he has in the building at quarterback. And listen, if it's any indication that Jayden's getting better by the snap, that's coaching. That goes back to Kingsbury. So I'm all in with that. And the guy, if you ask me right now, who's having the best offseason of any player, Jayden's right there now. Don't get me wrong. He might be 1B. 1A is Brian Robinson Jr. Flat.
Ooh, I love that.
I mean, and he's a huge Kingsbury supporter right now. Loves what he's doing with them. Loves how he's utilizing him. And Brian looks like a freight train out there, man. Brian looks like a baby. I don't want to say Derrick Henry. That's abnormal, but he kind of reminds me a little bit of Adrian Peterson. He really does. And he's catching the ball out the backfield. First practice in training camp had a nice over the shoulder, kept his feet in the
corner route
zone corner route.
Yeah, that was nice.
That's a 6'1", 6'2" running back doing that, man. It was just nice to see. So I think with the way that they're going to utilize him and Cliff Kingsbury's offense, man, the sky's the limit for these guys. And the other thing, not to stray here, the offensive line is not going to look as bad as they have in the past. So I think that room for concern, is it an all-world offensive line? No, it's not. But they're not the worst offensive line in football. And I think that when you have the type of quarterback that Jayden is, guy that's going to beat you with his arm and his legs, and his quick decision making, and then you have a sledgehammer running back there, and then you also have a playmaking running back in Eckler, and now you have 2 tight ends, in Sennett and Zach Ertz to help your young quarterback. I just think that they're going to find some pieces on this offensive line that are going to surprise people. Beatis at center, I like. Obviously, Cosme's going to be a Pro Bowler this year, in my opinion. Should have been last year. And then now, surprisingly, Cornelius Lucas and Coleman are going at it at that tackle spot, and both look okay to me right now. And this is the other thing, Rio. There's never been in any of these practices going all the way through OTAs, through mini camp, now into training camp, first 3 days of training camp. I've never seen one side of the ball get the better of the other consistently. They were having fluid practices where they're working against each other. They're trying to get better. But last year, man, the last 2 years, the offense couldn't even hike the ball because the defensive line was all over those guys.
Havoc.
And it gave the defensive line a false sense of hope because they weren't any good. So now you're seeing real good competitive practices where, some unit does something well, they get attacked the next play to not look so well. So this is good stuff.
Yep, and I know you're going to get a better feel for the offensive line once they put pads on, because we haven't even heard pads pop in Ashburn yet. But I'm very interested to hear more about Brandon Coleman and Cornelius Lucas and even Andrew Wiley at the tackle position, because I think people diminish the value of a good scheme and a quick processing quarterback. Like Jayden Daniels, my favorite thing I've heard about him, other than that he absorbs information fast, is that he makes quick decisions. He's not going to be back there patting the football all day, and he's not going to be back there staring down the receiver. He's going to make a quick decision, and he has more of a whip-like arm than I anticipated coming in.
Yeah, people have to really take into consideration that this guy's played a lot of football as a starter.
Games.
Yeah, 55 games, and you can't diminish that. For all the Drake May supporters who were before the draft calling for him, and I was about to lose my mind. Like, no,
I liked him too. I liked him too. I'm not gonna lie to you. I like them both.
but I think he's going to be a very good quarterback down the road. It's not going to happen overnight. And the reason for that is because he doesn't have a lot of football in him. So he still has to learn some things. Jayden and Caleb, they were already there. Michael Penix, those guys were already guys that had played a lot of football. And I said there were 2 players in this draft that I knew could be starters from day one, and possibly a third. The third was Penix. Bo Nix isn't too far off, but I do think that legitimately Caleb and Jayden were just light years ahead of everyone else from a talent standpoint and from a sheer knowledge of defense in the game. Yep.
Hell yeah. And I'm excited, man. I'm ready to go. I think Caleb and Jayden are about to rumble for the Rookie of the Year. I seen you talking about Jayden having the edge at Rookie of the Year the other day. The tight end position seems significantly upgraded. I think the one acquisition everybody's overlooking is Zach Ertz, because where he is at his state of his career right now, I think we could be looking at like a resurgence year for Zach Ertz, because he already knows Cliff's offense. He speaks the language, and he's going to start for this team. Drafted a tight end in the 2nd round. I think Ertz, Sennett, Bates, and we got to see if Cole Turner is going to fight for that 3rd spot at tight end as well. Like, I don't think he's going to make it.
Armani Rogers.
Armani Rogers. Oh, yeah, I forgot about Armani.
Yeah. So
about Armani.
They've got a deep room, and they're going to have to figure some things out. I think Cole's going to be up against it. I truly believe that. So he's going to have to come out and make some plays, but I do agree with you. I think Zach Ertz, it's more than just the skill set on the field. It's the professionalism. It's younger guys watching you, how you maneuver out on the field, how you handle process information in meetings, and the way he and Jayden have already clicked. You can see it's a security blanket already. And I love what I'm seeing. Ben Sennett's going to benefit from this big time to watch how things are done. And Dan Campbell and his staff have made sure that the young guys know, and the older veterans know, bring those young guys in. This isn't holding them off because you don't want them to take your job. We're a team. So he's making sure that they're all meshing together and spending time away from the facility together. And it shows on the field. It just seems like there's a lot of camaraderie out there, Rio. Like there's no egos, no, I did this. And I mean, even Terry came out and said that. There's none of, I did this before. Everyone has a full, clean slate, but you're building this together, and they've all adopted that new Navy code, Navy SEAL thing that, you got to be in this together if you're going to be successful, and everybody's buying in.
I love it, man. I know I'm buying in. I think fans are going to buy into this early. Based on everything you've seen, I know it's early. We're only 3 days into camp. You've been around the team all offseason. You've been around Adam Peters in the new front office, the ownership group, the coaching staff. How good immediately can this team be in 2024, especially if Jayden Daniels hits the ground running as a rookie quarterback?
Well, right now I have them as no worse than a 9-win football team.
Ooh.
Right now. And that was before training camp even started, from what I saw in the offseason. Now, from what I'm seeing, it's going to come down to me, the wide receivers. They're going to have to make plays. They have to. But you know what? The way, they're being utilized, the way Cliff's using them, there's a lot of motion. They're not being jammed on the line, They're making sure guys can get free run off the line, do some different things, different looks. I think this football team could be a 10-win football team. And if Jayden is really what we think he can be, and that offensive line plays much better than they have in the past, you might be looking at an 11-win football team. I'm telling you right now, this is not the team that you've seen over the last several years. If their team stacked up today and played each other, they beat the hell out these old teams.
I keep telling people that saying, I don't want to drink the Kool-Aid. I've seen this before. No, you have not. I'll tell you as a 32-year-old fan, I have not seen this before. I've not seen an 11-win season. I've never seen a quarterback throw for 30 touchdowns. I've seen a lot of the same things happen. And most importantly, I've seen a team that has not had one identity for the last 25 years. This team feels like they're going to have an identity, like Adam Peters said. You're going to feel this team. You're going to know what's coming when this team is on your schedule. And speaking of Adam Peters, to close this out, there's been a guy that we've been linked to all offseason. There's an Adam Peters connection. There's a Jayden Daniels connection. Brandon Ayuk. Does that ever come into fruition at some point?
No.
You don't think so?
I don't think so. And he's a really good football player. But Brandon, to me, is Terry. They're one and the same. I mean, they're really good players. 1Bs on a team with a real 1A. I think Terry has a chance to prove that he can be a 1A this year. I mean, he's been a 1A by default, but I mean, like, known as a one around the league because
like guys,
one of those guys that he has a chance to go from top 10, maybe fringe 10, 11 now, to move himself up into that 7 through 4 range. I just think that he has a chance to do that because he's going to have a real guy getting him the ball and a real coordinator utilizing his strengths and not making him have to fight for everything that he gets. Some things are going to come easier to Terry this year, and you'll be able to see the speed that he has. He's a 4.2 guy. You'd never know that because the way he's been used. So you're going to see a lot of these things this year. But I think if everything can come into play, it's all there. But for Ayuk, if you get him, it makes the team better. But he also could cause some disruption because that is Jayden's guy. And starts looking for his best friend all the time. How do you feel if you're Terry, if you're Jahan, if you're some other guys? And right now, there's such a harmony out there. There's such a good chemistry. There's no contracts talks with anybody. No one's holding out. It's just play ball, man. So you don't want to have to deal with that at all, if you ask me.
Those are good problems to have, though. Like, you could never have too much talent in a room or on the roster. But I see what you did, Adam Peters. The 49ers are now $26 million over the cap. Ayuk holding in for a contract. Trent Williams holding out for a contract. And Brock Purdy's going to have to get a $300 million contract in about a year's time from now. And he just rolled into Washington with this robust and lucrative resources around him. I see what you did. I see the timing in that, Adam Peters. But I appreciate you for coming on the pod with me today, my boy. We're going to link up some more. We got to get together and do something like we was doing a couple years ago and get some in-person stuff going like we did. What you got planned for this season, my boy?
Man, it's a lot coming up, man. Hopefully, there's some announcements or something huge coming up over the next couple days. So we right here, man. It's right there, and it's going to change a lot. So let me just tell you, for guys like yourself who I see out there grinding, keep it up, man. And I hope people can use me as a testament that if you keep grinding and keep believing, it will happen. It may not happen right away, but it will happen. But man, I'm proud of you and everything you're doing, brother.
I appreciate you, Lake. Hey, this guy right here, man. This is the best guy in the media in this area, man. This is my guy, man. Friend of the show, but friend in real life, Lake Lewis. Appreciate you for stopping by the program. We'll definitely touch base again before training camp concludes. Let people know where to find you, and we can get out of here.
Sure. You can check me out on my social media. It's Lake Lewis Jr. on pretty much all platforms. So once again, it's Lake Lewis Jr. on all platforms. You can go to sportsjourney.com. On occasion, you see me on ABC and DC as their insider. And yeah, something else coming up, man. I can't wait. But it's there. You'll see the announcements coming.
Hell yeah, just let your guy know. That's going to conclude it. 3 days into training camp. We're going into the weekend. Training camp opens to public on Sunday. 5 days open to the public this year. So if you didn't get training camp tickets, if you could find somebody with them, find them. That's all I got for right now. Until next time, hail to the Washington Commanders. Commander Rio, out.